Good morning. Welcome to the Blue Earth County Board of Directors meeting. It is the May 12th, oh my goodness, May 12th, 2026, and we'll start off with the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, sorry about that. Agenda review.
There are no changes to the agenda, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, passes. And then I need a motion to
I
recess.
will move to recess for economic development.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Economic development. So we'll call this meeting to order. Agenda review, Josh.
There are no changes to this agenda as well, Madam Chair.
Move the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Minutes.
I'll approve the minutes.
I have a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we need to appoint Josh as the executive director.
Madam Chair, I will make that motion to appoint Josh Milo, Executive Director.
I will second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. All right, and then we move into the intergovernmental agreement with the Economic Development Authority of Mankato. Hello, Nancy.
Good morning, Nancy.
So today we are reviewing our partnership with the Mankato EDA and the City of Mankato. In prior agreements, it was the Blue Earth County EDA entering into a service agreement with the Mankato EDA. But now with the RAD conversion of our public housing and the public housing ownership transferring from the EDA to the Blue Earth County, there's now a need for a separate agreement. The EDA share a longstanding commitment to ensuring access to safe, stable, and affordable housing. Both parties have worked collaboratively to establish and coordinate a regional approach to housing policy, investment, and program delivery. Under the proposed structure, we have two agreements that will need to be entered with the EDA today. The intergovernmental agreement with the EDA and then the property management agreement with the county. The proposed intergovernmental agreement formalizes the framework for collaboration across housing programs. Specifically, the intergovernmental agreement will outline the administrative and coordination of the following programs: the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, the Housing Choice Voucher Program funded by HUD, and the Bring It Home Rental Assistance Program funded by the Minnesota Housing. The agreement also establishes a regional service area extending beyond Blue Earth County and includes Brown, Faribault, Lee Seward, Martin, Nicollet, Pipestone, Rock, Sibley, Waseca, and Watonwan counties. And the key components of the agreement have to do with a coordinated housing continuum that addresses housing homelessness, rental assistance, housing development, and home ownership opportunities. Continued administration and shared oversight of the Housing Trust Fund, designation of administrator for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, regional administration of the Bring It Home Rental Assistance Program, and that does partner with multiple housing agencies. It defines the roles of the program administration, financial management, compliance, and reporting. And it is a 5-year agreement with provisions for renewal, amendment, and termination. As an administrator, the Mankato EDA will oversee the program implementation, including financial management, reporting, landlord engagement, compliance with all applicable and federal and state requirements. This agreement includes the MOUs that have already been entered for the Housing Trust Fund and the Bring It Home program, as well as the Housing Choice Voucher Administrative Plan. Staff recommends the adoption of the resolution authorizing the executive director to enter into the, the executive director to enter into an intergovernmental agreement between the Economic Development Authorities of Blue Earth County and Mankato, formalizing their regional housing collaboration and program administration.
All right.
I would move approval.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Then the next item is the property management agreement. So it would be asking for an approval of a resolution authorizing Blue Earth County to enter a property management agreement with the Mankato EDA related to the public housing portfolio through this RAD conversion process. Blue Earth County will now own and operate the portfolio, including Breckenridge and 66 scattered site properties. The Blue Earth County EDA has received HUD approval to convert the remaining public housing units through RAD. This conversion allows the transfer of the traditional public housing to long-term project-based vouchers. And because Blue Earth County EDA cannot both administer project-based vouchers and manage the units, you're looking at a management agreement with the Mankato EDA. So under the proposed structure, the EDA, or the Blue Earth County will own the properties. The EDA will continue to serve as contract administrator of the project-based vouchers, and Mankato will assume the day-to-day property management of the units on behalf of the county. Through the management agreement, it does oversee leasing and management, eligibility and compliance requirements, rent collection, property maintenance and repair, financial management and reporting, and compliance with all federal and state program requirements. The initial agreement establishes a 5-year initial term with automatic renewals. The Mankato EDA will receive a management fee equal to 6% of the gross revenues paid directly from the operating of the projects, and all operating costs will remain project supported and no direct local subsidies will be required. The agreement also establishes the financial standards consistent with HUD requirements. The EDA will operate with an approved budget and a management plan while maintaining the authority of the day-to-day operations. Staff is recommending approval of the resolution authorizing the county administrator to execute a property management agreement with the Mankato EDA.
Okay, I would make that motion.
I have a motion
I will second it.
and a second. Any discussion?
I don't have any discussion or questions, Madam Chair, but the relationship we've had with Mankato has been working out very well, so we do appreciate that partnership that we do. So thank you, Nancy.
Couldn't agree more. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thanks, Nancy. And we will
Have a good day,
adjourn.
Nancy. I move to adjourn.
Second?
We are adjourned, and we'll move back into the agenda. So, we'll reconvene the board meeting and drainage. Good morning,
Morning, gentlemen.
First agenda here is a motion to stay on County Ditch 88. The Blue Earth County Ditch 88 watershed is approximately 5,500 acres in size and is in Decoria and McPherson Township on September 17, 2027. After a notice of a public hearing, the Drainage Authority adopted findings and order approving the proposed repair plans for portions of County Ditch 88, directing its appointed engineers at ISG to prepare a detailed plan, specifications of the necessary documents to allow public bidding and construction of the ordered repair. Through considerable landowner feedback, the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority was asked to reconsider the order for repairs. Since the repairs were approved, an order staying the repair order is required. An order staying the repairs does not vacate the adopted findings and order for repairs. Rather, the order allows time for the Drainage Authority to review the order and to consider if the previous order should be reaffirmed, modified, rescinded, or otherwise addressed. There will be additional landowner meetings and or hearings on this matter in the future. Action requested at today's meeting, we request the Drainage Authority to approve the findings and order resulting in a pause to the previously approved repairs, allowing time for additional landowner input and reconsideration of repair meetings to be scheduled at a later date.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who wishes to make comment on the motion to stay on County Ditch 88? Anyone here wishing to make comment on 88? Anyone wishing to make comment? Seeing no comment?
Madam Chair, I would move the motion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
The only thing I would add is I would emphasize that there will be some meetings in the first part of June. We're already starting to put some dates together, so that's where we'll try to get more land owner input. And then as the order also says, we might change or modify the order, so that will be coming back to the board for board authorization. So we just have to step back for one, and now we'll bring it back to the board after we have more landowner meetings and re-get approval to do whatever scope of work we decided to do. So
Have those, and is it a landowner meeting or is it multiple meetings?
it will be probably multiple meetings.
Okay.
I'm thinking at least 2, just so we can hit everybody and be
The
some.
same meeting twice type thing?
Yep.
Or a stage 1, stage 2?
I would say stage 1, stage 2.
Only need to be at one of the two if you're a landowner then?
Yeah.
And
There'll be a
have
lot
those
of
been
conversation.
scheduled yet?
Nope.
And how will we advertise those?
We will notice everyone from my
And we'll
understanding.
get,
So everybody got a notice for this meeting, should get a notice for that. And if anybody hasn't gotten a notice, and if anybody knows anybody, please reach out to me.
but those those notices go to landowners.
Correct.
Yes.
So if you're operator or renter in that area, you have to be aware of when they are, if you don't hear that from your
Correct.
landowner. Okay.
Because that's the feedback we want,
Yep.
is from the landowners. Thank you, Kevin, for that.
Okay.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We already did all that. It carries.
Yeah. Okay, and next one is in County Ditch 93. It's kind of the same thing. The Blue Earth County Ditch 93 watershed is approximately 3,260 acres in size and is in Decoria Township. On February 17th, 2026, after notice of public hearing, the Drainage Authority adopted findings and order approving the proposed repair plans for portions of County Ditch 93 and directing its appointed engineers at ISG prepare a detailed plan, specifications, and necessary documents to allow for public bidding construction of the ordered repair. Through considerable landowner feedback, the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority has asked to reconsider the order for repairs. Since the repairs were approved, an order staying the repair order is required. An order staying the repairs does not vacate the adopted findings order for repairs. Rather, the order allows time for the Drainage Authority to review the order and consider if the previous order should be reaffirmed, modified, rescinded, or otherwise addressed. There again, there will be additional landowner meetings or hearings in the future. At today's meeting, we request the Drainage Authority to approve the findings and order resulting in a pause to the previously approved repairs, allowing time for additional landowner input and a reconsideration of repair meeting to be scheduled at a later date.
All right. Is there anyone wishing to make comment on County Ditch 93? Anyone wishing to make comment on County Ditch 93? Last time, anyone wishing to make comment? All right, we will close the comment.
I will move the order, Madam Chair.
I have a motion
Second?
and a second. Any discussion on this?
Only discussion, Madam Chair, is the same conversation we just had on 88. This is exactly the same process and exactly the same procedure.
Okay. Kevin, anything? We're good? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Judicial Ditch 33.
Okay, we got a couple things on JD 33. Judicial Ditch 33 resides in sections 22, 23, 26, and 27 of McPherson Township. JD 33 is a public drainage system established in 1918 with approximate watershed of 896 acres. The current redetermination was completed in 1907. On December 6, 2021, drainage staff received a petition for improvement of JD 33 on June 21, 2022. The Drainage Authority appointed viewers to complete the determination of benefits for improvement. During the determination of benefits for the improvement, the viewers discovered concerns with overlapping watershed boundaries and realized it needed to update the original redetermination of benefits to reflect current land values. It was decided a redetermination of benefits was necessary. The viewers have completed their work, and the drainage staff has recommending that the Blue Earth County officially order the redetermination of benefits for Blue Earth County Ditch 33. The redetermination of benefits will then be considered at the May 26, 2026 Drainage Authority meeting. At today's meeting, the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority, we are requesting an order to appoint viewers for redetermination of benefits for JD 33.
So moved,
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
Madam Chair. So, as it's mentioned in here, number 6, there was an informational meeting yesterday,
Yes.
and we learned that there will need to be some petitions from landowners to get things in the right. So although the work is kind of completed, it's not completed, and as we look at this, our findings in order will be contingent on those happening, correct?
Or are you thinking of 64?
I am thinking of 64.
Yeah, I think this one's mine.
That's two petitions.
That's right, we
of
had
64.
two.
But we had this discussion at 33 also.
Oh, yeah,
Because
but
there's some
they didn't
landowners-
have any landowners
Yep.
But
filing
there's,
petitions on this one.
yeah,
Yeah.
but this one here might have the same thing coming up those years, because there's some that maybe they're checking into it, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. That
That explains it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. The next item here is setting the hearing for JD 33 redetermination of benefits. Judicial Ditch 33 resides in section 22, 23, 26, and 27 of McPherson Township. JD 33 is a public drainage system established in 1918 with approximately watershed of 896 acres. On May 12, 2026, the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority approved findings and order initiating redetermination of benefits for Judicial Ditch 33. Viewers were appointed and ordered to create an updated benefits and damages listing for the viewers report for Judicial Ditch 33. A copy of the drafted viewers report for the redetermination of benefits was submitted to the Blue Earth County Drainage Management staff. We request that the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority set a date of May 26, 2026 at 9 a.m. for the hearing on the proposed viewers report for JD 33 redetermination of benefits.
So moved.
second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay, let's move on to the next.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'll take the final two. Next item is County Ditch 28, setting a hearing. County Ditch 28 watershed has approximately 3,900 benefited acres and located primarily in Lincoln Township. On October 9th of 2025, County Drainage Management staff received a petition for partial abandonment under Minnesota Statute 103E 806, affecting a portion of County Ditch 28, specifically Branch 9. This petition was reviewed by the county's drainage authority and found to be adequate for drainage attorney and found to be adequate for this proceeding. On December 2nd of 2025, the drainage authority appointed Charles J. Brandel, professional engineer of ISG, to create and submit an engineer's review report for the petition. The appointed engineer filed their engineer's review report with drainage management staff on April 23rd of 2026. Final plans from petitioners were filed on April 30th of 2026. With all reports submitted to staff, now is the appropriate time to schedule the final hearing for the petition for partial abandonment affecting portions of Branch 9, County Ditch 28. Today, we request the County Ditch 28 Drainage Authority set a date of June 9, 2026 at 9 a.m. for the final hearing on the petition for partial abandonment affecting Branch 9, County Ditch 28. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
All right, my last item is also setting a hearing date for County Ditch 65. Blue Earth County Ditch 65 watershed is approximately 763 benefited acres in size and primarily located in Judson Township. On December 17th of 2024, County Ditch 65 Drainage Authority appointed viewers and initiated the redetermination benefits for County Ditch 65. Copy of the draft viewers report for the redetermination of benefits was submitted to Blue Earth County Drainage Management staff on May 1st of 2026. In-field inspections, including televising large portions of subsurface tile for CD65, have led to the discovery and development of current repair plans affecting portions of Branch 1, including rerouting portions. The need for repair and reroute is because the current Branch 1 tile runs underneath portions of Township Road 200th Street and is in state of disrepair. A copy of the engineer's repair report has been submitted to Drainage Management staff on March 31st of 2026. With both the draft viewer report and engineer's repair report submitted to Blue Earth County Drainage Management staff, now is the appropriate time to schedule final public hearings for both the redetermination of benefits and the repair hearing. We request the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority for County Ditch 65 set a date of June 9, 2026 at 9 a.m. for a hearing on the proposed viewer's report for the County Ditch 65 redetermination of benefits, as well as the public hearing for proposed repairs.
I'll move approval.
Second?
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a good morning.
Thanks,
You
guys.
too. Property and Environmental Resources, Mike.
Morning, Michael.
Good morning.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'm going to bring two items forward for you today. The first one is action on the Minnesota River Mankato Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan. That is a mouthful. So this is the next one of our One Watershed, One Plan items for you. Commissioner PAP has been involved in all of these, and so the action in front of you is to actually approve the county's involvement through that Joint Powers Collaborative Agreement for the management of the plan as it's being developed and then implemented. So again, this is for the Minnesota River Mankato. So this would be around the city of Mankato, around Lake Crystal as well, the northwestern parts of the county there. And so this is a plan that we'll be operating under that collaborative model. That's the route that this group decided to go. So it creates a technical advisory committee, local implementation work group, the policy advisory committee. A very traditional format in there. It's just the collaborative style rather than a full joint powers entity. So the items that are before you in the contract or in the agreement have been reviewed by staff, also by the policy committee. We did try to provide some input and get some changes to have that work the best as it could for the county. That agreement was just approved yesterday, I do believe, based on what Scott Salisbury was sharing with me. One thing that we will note, Scott mentioned in his memo that there would be an opportunity for up to $2,500 per entity per year for a fee or dues. They decided yesterday to set that at $1,000. So that is what it'll be set for the next year. So I can help with any questions. Commissioner Papp obviously would know quite a bit more about that too, Madam Chair, but otherwise we're looking for action by the board to accept that so that we can continue our involvement.
I would so move.
Second.
Discussion.
The only thing I would add is that we did set yesterday for the upcoming 27 dues, not to exceed $1,000. The other thing is we're not sure if we'll have all the cities in yet, if they will join or not. I think Mankato being the one that they're not 100% yet. Blue Earth County Soil and Water did approve it last Thursday at their board meeting, so I certainly support this. And this is, like I said before at the last meeting, we talked about this. This is a little different where we've got 4 cities and 3 counties, where it's typically been primarily the counties.
Right.
Some new dynamics.
Absolutely, and that's correct, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. The City of Mankato is not fully committed to it yet, but we will see. You'll notice there's multiple counter signing pages there, so it'll go into effect for the entities that do sign it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one.
All right, Madam Chair, the next item then would be tab 9 in your packet, and this is for the countywide abatement policy revisions. We brought these forward to a work session recently, and so this is just the formal action of the board that we're requesting here. As we discussed at the work session, the changes here are trying to provide our staff some clarity around what we should be defining as a clerical error versus a data error. I can go through the details again for you. I can also save your time and just kind of point out that we did follow through with the conversation that we had at that work session to implement those. We're looking forward to these changes so that we can provide some better clarity and advice to taxpayers as we're working with them on any corrections that might reduce their property taxes. It does not change the abatement thresholds that you've delegated to us. It doesn't change any of those parameters that we've had in place for several years now in our policy. It just gives us a little bit more clarity as technology and processes have changed. What is clerical versus what is data looks differently now. So we'd appreciate a motion to accept this new policy so that we can implement it here with our tax due date coming up on Friday.
Yeah, it'd be perfect.
I'll move approval.
Second?
Any discussion? Looks good. Thanks for your work on this.
Thanks so much. Art.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And Public Works. Good morning, Ryan.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Ryan.
A pretty busy agenda today, so we'll get right into it.
Sounds good.
The first action item is consideration of award for the 2026 maintenance striping contract. We received 3 bids this year, and with those bids, the lowest price bidder, Camco Incorporated, was $925 lower than last year's low bid. So you can see the 2026 bid results here, as well as the 2025 previous year bid results, where Camco did not bid. So with that being said, we would recommend award of the bid to Camco Incorporated.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you. Action item number 2 is consideration of bid award for the 2026 asphalt emulsion for maintenance seal coating contract. Again, we received 3 bids this year. HG Miggs was the low base bid, which was $112,489 in the 2025 accepted bid. And if you remember correctly, I believe it was last year, Flint Hills provided the low bid. However, they tried to change the contract language and we dismissed their bid. So good to see good bids. They did acknowledge our contract language this year. So with that being said, though, we did get a bid from Flint Hills this year that was in accordance, but they weren't low. So HG Miggs, who's been a previous provider for us, was. And I would recommend award of the contract, including the alternate CRS2P asphalt emulsion to HG Miggs.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Very close bids.
Yeah, they were. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
All right, action item number 3 is consideration of bid award for the 2026 maintenance gravel hauling contract. Again, 3 bids received this year. Low bid price is $3,800 higher than the 2025 low bid. Max Johnson Trucking would recommend award of this bid for $264,000 to Max Johnson Trucking.
So moved.
Second?
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
All right. Action item number 4, consider bid award for state aid project 007605021, County State Aid Highway number 5, 3rd Avenue reconstruction from Riverfront Drive to Cleveland Street in Mankato. We received 3 bids. The engineer's estimate was $8,430,154.76. Holtmeyer Construction, who's right down the block from our project, was the low bidder at $7,857,181.55, 6.8% under our estimate. GM Contracting was second, 8.64% over the estimate, and BCM Construction was 34.17% over the estimate. The project bid abstract has been circulated for your information. We did see that a bit of a shift from the engineer's estimate pushed more cost actually towards the city of Mankato for the utility work, and the road cost was actually slightly lower than we had originally estimated. So we did, based on our cooperative construction agreement with the city, get their concurrence to move forward with the bids. because of that cost shift and them having a little bit higher share of the project. But a lot of that is due to the fact that obviously the contractor is anticipating having to excavate and install their utilities through bedrock, as well as the coordination that's required now with the gas main relocation. So with that being said, I would recommend award of that contract to Holtmeyer Construction Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Nice to see this started.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
All right. Next, we have MnDOT agreement number 1062917 for local bridge replacement program funds for state aid project 007605021, or CASA 5 3rd Avenue reconstruction project. This grant agreement is for 50% of the cost of the box culvert bridge on the project in the amount of $144,438.88. I would recommend approval of said MnDOT agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Also included within that same agreement, number 1062917, is a resolution authorizing the county to proceed with the project for the county chair, Madam Chair, to sign, and the county administrator. I would recommend approval of said resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
All right. Action item number 7 is consideration of MnDOT agreement number 1062965 for local road improvement program funds for state aid project 007605021, CASA 5 3rd Avenue reconstruction. This agreement is a competitive grant award of $1.5 million for eligible road costs for the project. So again, we applied for this and we're fortunate to be awarded this to help us assist with this project's completion. So I would recommend award of MnDOT agreement 1062965.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
All right. And as MnDOT does, we also have a resolution for the local road improvement program grant agreement authorizing the county to enter into agreement with the state, signed by our chair and county administrator. We recommend approval of said resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Okay, action item number 9, consider final payment for County Road 139 bridge replacement for state aid project 007598037. This was for replacement of old bridge number 90571 over the Perch Creek on County Road 139 by M&K Bridge Construction. The original contract amount was $625,822.92. Final pay voucher amount $7,203.53 for a total final contract payment amount $621,353.20. I would recommend approval of final contract payment.
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
This is smooth sailing so
It's
far.
smooth sailing. You only got 3 of us.
Discussion items. We had last month had approved a resolution requesting MnDOT to conduct a speed study assessment on County State Aid Highway 60 from Minnesota Highway 22 to Victory Drive, CASA 82. And MnDOT looked at that, came back to me and said that's really, they'd like to evaluate the entire segment if they're going to evaluate it, because that segment isn't really long enough for them to put a speed limit on. So they'd like to evaluate the entire segment of CASA 60 from Stoltzman Road up the hill through MSU campus all the way to Highway 22. It doesn't necessarily mean that the entire segment would have one speed limit applied to it. I think it's entirely plausible that the heavily urbanized area, especially with respect to going through MSU campus and probably past Quick Trip, would have one speed limit, and it's possible then that we would have a different speed limit as it opens up a little bit farther to the east. I'm comfortable with that. If the county board is comfortable with that. MnDOT didn't think they would need a revised resolution. They just wanted concurrence with that approach. So I wanted to get the board feedback on it.
And we talked about this the other day, and I don't have a problem with that, but I guess really what brought this up was just some concerns about speed limit signs.
Right.
Is it really worth us going through all this work grind? I certainly support this if we want to, but, you know, coming up the hill, I don't even know what the speed limits are, but is it, so I guess the question I have, from the roundabout at Victory going to 83, or to 22, and it's the start of 83,
Yep.
is 55, we assume, right? Because it's not in the city limits, 'cause that's the, and correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's
Chair.
what was discussed.
Correct. Statutorily, we have the ability to assign a speed limit of 30 mile per hour
In city.
in city
Okay.
limits and 55 mile per hour outside of city limits. And this is one of those, what I would call an urbanizing area. So it's kind of a transitionary area, so it should have a speed limit somewhere in between.
So where's the city limits, first of all? I don't want to interrupt, but is it go all the way to 22? The city limits must be to 22
I
because
think
you got,
it's, on the north side it is, but on the south side it's not.
okay.
I'm not sure that the city limits. I'd have
I
to
don't
look
know,
at
but
it.
anyway, so it's probably, it's that urban street, so.
And I don't think 30 would be a fitting speed limit there
Well,
either.
it might be too slow.
Yeah.
So those are only two options,
Right.
either 30 or 55. 55 is too fast, 30 is
Yeah.
too slow.
And we've talked about this, it was, and I don't think Commissioners Papp or O'Connor were on the board at the time, but when I began as county engineer, we did have discussion that many of the county state highways around within Mankato were posted at more so the design speed and don't have speed studies conducted on them. And at the time of that discussion, the board made the decision that they were comfortable with, that people were comfortable driving those speeds on the roads. We really didn't have an issue, so let's just leave it alone. It is plausible that we could start looking at doing piecemealing speed studies in and starting to get fully legal speed limits established on all of those roads. But it could mean change too, and it could mean
Right.
it could go faster, it could go slower, it could stay the same. We don't have control over that.
So, I mean, that's just my 2 cents worth. This seems like it's just getting,
I can say that the Minnesota Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices was just recently updated, and there was some revised language with respect to the establishment of speed limits, that they can take more heavily into account the context of the road. So heavy urbanization, heavy traffic volumes and things of that nature, and not just the 85th percentile observed driven speed, where typically prior to that, that was really a lot of the weighting of what the speed limit was established at was set on what at least up to 85% of the people are comfortable driving too. So you're typically was a little bit higher speeds. I think there's a possibility that it could be slightly lower because of that consideration, but the 85th percentile driven speed is still a contributing factor.
I just get a little concerned. It's 30 through the college, I would imagine.
Correct.
Probably even coming up Stoltzman.
30, it's
It's either 30 or 55. correct?
35, yeah, it's posted.
35.
Again,
So,
yeah.
but and then as you get further past Jake's, you know,
It's
towards the
35 through
roundabout,
that
that's
segment.
35.
Yep.
Probably through
40.
40.
It's
Is it
40,
40 there?
yeah.
It's 40 from the intersection with Quick Trip out to the roundabout.
Okay.
And that again, we've got a smattering of 35,
Yeah.
40,
Right.
45s around Mankato.
And I'd just be a little concerned that it goes higher at all the problems we're having with pedestrians, and we've worked so hard to try to get that campus area safe.
We can certainly express our concerns again with the number of crosswalks and the pedestrians there.
I think we
would-
should be okay.
I wouldn't think
I
it
don't
would,
think
and
it'd
we'd
go higher.
have the statutory ability, I think, to fix that at 30 as a bare minimum. And then,
Yeah, I mean, the study, like you said, it can go up or down.
Yep.
And we've just worked so hard with crossings and pedestrian traffic. To raise it would be against everything we've done,
Yep.
in my opinion.
and I can certainly have that, if we choose to move forward with the speed study discussion, I can certainly have that conversation with MnDOT's traffic engineers and express our concerns about that. And that we really want them to take that use into account.
Sure.
Madam Chair, just one question with that is, you know, when we look at the speed study, I think a lot of the discussion wasn't even as much about the speed, but the signage and the
Right.
posted for the speed. I think that's just one question from what we heard, is that regardless, could there be some signage between, that, the roundabout on Victory and 22? I think that's where the concerns come in, is just for people not knowing what those
Right.
speeds were coming into town or leaving town.
Yeah, and I think based on our discussion, we weren't comfortable posting it at 55 because that seems too high.
Too
And we
high.
don't, from a departmental practice and policy, we have not posted roads that are statutorily 55 miles per hour because it's outside of it being right at the edge of town. It's not advisable because of the number of signs we'd have to put up on every road, and it's common knowledge that those roads are 55. We have started as you're leaving city limits, like on County Road 17 and others, where it transitions from a 30 or 35 to 55. We've put up an N30 or a speed limit sign as you transition to the rural roadway, but we're not putting them out at every intersection. So again, yeah, the struggle we'd have and the discussion we had is that we'd have to post it at either 30 or 55. And if
Those
we
are
went
two
somewhere in
options.
between, we'd be making it up and
We
not
can't do
following.
that without the study.
Correct.
So we can go out there and post it at 30, but I don't think that'll go over very well, and we certainly don't want it at 55 at this point, because we're just gonna have to spool it down later.
So
If
if
you
you
had
didn't agree, like, let's say they put through the campus at 40, and then we didn't agree with that, we could keep it at 30?
I believe I'll talk to them about that, but the state statute 169.14 is pretty clear that within city limits, we have the ability to set it at 30.
Okay. Because it's the city limits we're mostly concerned about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's that fringe piece out there.
Right.
But I think, from Quick Trip to the east, you'd probably be open to something faster than 30.
Yeah, I think
Again,
40 is
35 to
probably
40
appropriate
is,
there.
is probably reasonable, so. I would
As that other
anticipate-
land develops, so that might get busier, and you might wanna go back to 30.
Right.
Because trying to take a left out of there is challenging.
Correct.
Or trying to take a left out of our old highway shop.
Yeah, and there is some proposed development coming in just east of Quick Trip
Mhm.
with a couple of fast food restaurants that'll.
Past our highway shop certainly would have been, 30
Oh, yeah.
miles an hour would have been nice,
Yeah.
which I don't know what that is there, but
That's
should be
the
30.
faster segment, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, have we talked to the city of Mankato about this at all? Has anybody, I mean? this
I've
is-
not, because it's our roadway, so.
Yeah. This, like I said, it was
But it
starting.
is in the city.
The
discussion
because we
started.
were springing off of your guys'
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah,
in
that's what,
intergovernmental.
and we want it posted. I think at the end of the day, we want it posted, and I
Right.
think at the end of the day, we all agree that 30's too slow and 55's too fast, so the only way we can change it.
And I think that's a big point, is that, yes, we want to post it, and really this came out of some officials from the city of Mankato looking for
Yeah.
this. And so I think when we say have this conversation, this was all springboarded from the conversation with the
Yes.
city of Mankato, and to do this cooperatively.
And this is the way we have to do it. So it's not like we can just throw a 40-mile-an-hour sign up out there, so.
So I guess we agree.
I can support that, if you're on board with it, Ryan.
Yeah,
If you-
I'll have further discussion.
Okay.
When I submitted that resolution, Scott Thompson was not in, so I'll call him
Okay.
and follow up on this. And
I can live with that.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that. Good discussion. Project and information updates, CASA 5 from 3rd Ave from Riverfront Drive to Summit Avenue. Centerpoint began their gas main relocation work on the north end of the project. One lane of traffic in each direction will be maintained throughout their work for access to Highway 14 and the businesses, especially the agricultural businesses right there that have a tremendous amount of truck traffic coming in and out.
Yeah, I was out there yesterday, it was busy.
I bet. CASA 4 bridge replacement project, the bridge deck has been poured. The railing is scheduled for later this week, and we'll anticipate that project should be reopened by early to mid-June. 10 from the West County line to CASA 20. We'll have the subcontractor in installing the edge drain this week for the gravel base. And then we would anticipate that the contractor will finish the gravel base and paving, which is scheduled for mid-June, so that should be coming back together and be open to traffic by midsummer. The CASA 40 slope repair project, R&E has recently mobilized back to the job site, and now they're rebuilding that washed out slope. And we're putting in a low flow pipe that'll take the more common flows down the hill, and then we'll have an actual flume over the top to take the higher velocity flows when it overflows. So that work is proceeding. Good to get that fixed. That one's been hanging out there for a while. CASA 26 bridge replacement, just south of Lime Valley Road, between Lime Valley Road and CASA 57. R&E is set to begin work Monday, May 18th. Then we've got the County Stated Highway 69 reconstruction project in La Hillier. Lawrence began work on the 4th, and phase 1 is the piece they're working on is from Casat 33 to the northeast to La Hillier Road, so effectively from 33 where it ties into 169 coming down the hill. That's the area that they're working on right now. We also have Casat 15 and 28 going on in the city of St. Clair. Casat 28 is essentially done with the exception of the top bituminous lift, which will be completed in 2027. And BCM is working on Casat 15 from the 28 north segment, working to the east to the intersection with County Road 173, so the eastern chunk of the road. 2026 bituminous overlays will be bid on May 20th. And Red Jacket Trail, with the damages that happened last year due to the flooding event, we are working on developing project plans and cost estimates for those repairs, and we'll be sequencing those and bringing that forward for a future work session discussion, but sequencing it ideally to have a project that would be aimed at getting the trail reopened with the FEMA funds that were available for some of the pipe failures. We would want to discuss what to do with the other timber bridge that's also failing. We'd like to get that out of there under that same project so that we don't have to deal with that in the future. And then we're also developing plans and an approach that we could apply for external funds through the Trails of Regional Significance and apply for funding to do some additional improvements, repave the trail and line some of the culverts, and then eventually talk about tackling the trestle with the decking and some of the timber elements that need to be repaired on the trestle. It's a big bite, and we'll have to do it in several sequence projects and look for external funding to do so.
Remind me, how old is the trail?
The age of the pavement, it's got to be at least 30 years old. I don't have that off the top of my head. But, you know, it's very solid, obviously, because it's old railroad grade. But the pavement is definitely due for repaving. The issue we have out there is that it's relatively narrow, and the Parks and Regional Trails Commission wants 10-foot pavement put in, and we only have 8 feet to work with. To do 10 feet, we'd have to cut it down dramatically. We'd rather pave over the top of what's there versus cutting into it and making it a major operation, because you've got to get all that material out of there. You've got to bring in gravel base. You've got to pave it out to cut it down.
There's not a lot of great access, I imagine.
Exactly. You know, you're backing tandems up for miles to do this work, so we'd rather minimize the amount of loads that have to go in and out of that. Maintenance activity updates. Crews have been busy crack filling, starting with the roads they'll be seal coating this year, driveway installations, tile intake, and culvert repairs, ditch cleaning, riprap installation. They're finishing up on washing bridge decks and removing and painting snow equipment off trucks and motor graders for storage this summer. Some going there. The last item I have then is the Rapidan Dam memorandum that's included in the board packet with updates on the bridge replacement project and the dam. And go through those relatively quickly. On April 2nd, we met with MnDOT and FHWA to discuss a need for time extension due to the time frame for MnDOT's approval process after we had submitted the plans. We also discussed the scope change and increase for the bridge with the change in substructure and length of the bridge. FHWA indicated that the time extension request and additional funding would be approved at the regional level and not have to go to DC, which is tremendous. So that was great news. I'm not going to lie, I had to temper my excitement during that call, but that really made my day. On April 7th, we met with TKDA and received project design permitting updates. On the 20th, we submitted the draft time extension and cost justification report to MnDOT for their review and submittal to FHWA. They provided some comments on it later. On the 22nd, we met with TKDA to discuss the project bridge replacement special provision, so the contract terms that will be included in the packet. On April 23rd, MnDOT approved our project memorandum. On the 24th of April, TKDA submitted the 100% plans and supporting documents to us. On May 1st, MnDOT submitted our final authorization extension request and cost justification memorandum to FHWA for their review and approval. We did request a time extension to September 1st. Initially, we were going to ask for a year. We don't really need a year, and FHWA wants us to keep our foot on the pedal, so we agreed that 3 months seemed to be a fair time extension. May 5th, the signed bridge load rating and design memorandum was submitted to MnDOT. We also met with TKDA and reviewed their draft provisions again. So that's really most of the news on the bridge. So that's coming together nicely. We're hopeful to see that actual approval from Federal Highway on the time and project funding in coming weeks.
Perfect.
Yeah, with respect to the dam, on April 1st, we met with representatives that were requesting a voluminous data request to more clearly define their search parameters, be able to better meet their request, the initial request terms that they requested. When IT pulled it, brought up like 93,000 documents. So we had a good conversation with them and were able to iteratively work through refining what they were really looking for. On April 8th, we initiated contact with Xcel Energy regarding their parcel of land adjacent to the dam and acquisition of it for incorporation into reconstruction of the stabilized slope. On the 9th, we met with Barr Engineering, 9th of April, we met with Barr Engineering, discussed the FEMA responses and cost estimates. Were still on hold due to the lack of FEMA responsiveness due to the government shutdown. Barr was in the process of reviewing the Blue Earth County Property Environmental Resource Environmental Assessment Worksheet comments for their revision. They've modeled the downstream channel in the near-term and long-term conditions. So they're looking at it under two scenarios, under what they're proposing to do for grading and what they're anticipating happening with the channel cutting at more of a longer, more gradual slope. And then analyzing that for stability in the long-term and short-term. And then also accounting for the accumulated sediment continuing to move downstream. So very complex work that they're doing. It's very impressive. They believe that the river down cutting will eventually result in a more gradual river slope instead of the steep reach of river that's currently at the dam, with that grade change from the head of the dam to the tail of the dam. And their hydraulic modeling indicates that fill heights could be reduced, which could result in less fill needed for the project, which is great news. They were working on alternate grading plans. We'll get into that. We're actually going to have discussion on that on May 26th at the board work session. Getting my months mixed up here. On the 17th of April, Public Works and Administration met to discuss the public outreach survey for board consideration. We'll also be discussing that on the 26th of May. On the 22nd of April, we met with Xcel Energy regarding that parcel of land acquisition where the substation previously had been. Xcel no longer has a need for the parcel, and they're in the process of performing their environmental and legal reviews of it so that they could transfer ownership to the county. We don't have a defined value for it yet, but I think we both agree it would be de minimis. So we'll be moving forward. I'll have to likely bring either that agreement or a resolution authorizing us to acquire that property. On April 23rd, we met with Barr Engineering. Barr had previously provided updated grading designs, and we reviewed their cost estimates. Again, we'll get into that in the 26th. The 15B states that it was going to come to the board work session on June 23rd. I'm glad we were able to move that up to May 26th again. That'll help us greatly with project schedule. Really no response from the FERC as of that date for recent submittals. They were going to continue to follow up again with the FERC. And to that end, we just had a call yesterday with the FERC, and they still haven't really looked at the things we submitted 2 months ago. So frustrating, but we're hoping that when we get the push from FEMA, that'll help kick the FERC into gear. We talked about doing some renderings with Barr's subcontractor Bolton & Mink for the proposed alternate grading plans for possible use within the public survey, and cost estimates and unit cost discussion. On the 30th, Barr provided updated cost estimates for our design alternatives. Plan on having, again, that county board meeting work session. May 4th, we received an email that FEMA is advising us that they're now able to resume work with us and will be sending us an updated cost estimate, which we got the next day on May 5th. Their updated cost estimate for the dam repair funding was dramatically different than the first one. The previous cost estimate that we received in late 2024 was $12,726,765. The updated cost estimate total amount as it stands now, is $23,107,920. So very close to our cost estimates for the dam removal and slope stabilization projects, which is phenomenal news. We did still question some of the things in there and sent some comments that both the county and BAR had established. We did have a conversation with them actually just yesterday about this. They did express some urgency to get this resolved. So they gave us effectively a month deadline for us to provide any cost data or anything like that, recommendations for revision to their cost estimate, but the burden of proof, I guess I would say, is on the county to provide that change. So I had a conversation with BAR yesterday about what we want to go after and what not to spend significant resources in, because really what they're trying to do is just give us a baseline dollar amount for a feasible project, and it's not going to get to the level of detail that we may be looking for, because it's a very kind of pie in the sky approach.
So help me out just a little bit, Ryan. When you say they want you to send some burden of proof, is that to restore it to the way it was before the flood?
Yes.
Okay.
And the one example that I'll use is they had proposed installing sheet piling as a cofferdam to
that's all I
block
came
off the
up-
water.
yep.
And we said that's not going to work because the bedrock's at elevation. There's really no sediment or any soil that you can drive sheet piling into. And so they said, okay, but you have to provide us with the quantity of cofferdam and recent cost data that would be relevant, just for one example. And again, I think the conversation that's been had in the county's approach that we intend to go forward with is that we think in general this is a relatively reasonable approach by FEMA. We want to call out some of those items that we still have concern with, but not to spend a tremendous amount of resources with BAR and county staff on picking through every little item, because frankly the sense and the tone of the call yesterday was that they're not really that subject to change. There was discussion that based on some of our initial comments, they will be adjusting this likely in the neighborhood of a couple $100,000 up. So that was good news, but again, I don't get a sense that we're going to get any other real big swings.
But it's hard to argue for something that we're not going to build, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Why am I spending all this time and energy when we have no intentions of building it back to the way it was?
Yep.
So let's get off that horse and just say, all right, this is what it's going to cost us to make it the way we want. If we can get close to that number, just have to kind of move through it.
Exactly.
Keep going. It's just a different, we're just not used to this process.
No, it's
usually when you're
an
bidding
odd-
something, you're going to build it. We're
Yeah.
bidding something and we're not even going to build it. So.
It's an odd process. What the discussion yesterday also entailed was that if we can get our proposed work to them in, so they gave us a month deadline from today, so June 12th, we
Okay.
have to have a response to their RFI with respect to the additional cost things. We also want to provide to them as much data as we can with respect to our proposed design and our work.
Of what we're
because-
actually going to do.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
And so that they can then, through their environmental review process and everything, do it all in one fell swoop,
Okay.
hopefully, instead of two steps.
Right.
So otherwise, they'd go through the process of approving the theoretical repair, and then have to go through an amendment process to do the dam removal. What we want to do is get them all the dam removal data we can so that they can include that and incorporate that into the project scope for consideration, so they only have to look at it once instead of twice. So we'll be working with BAR to try to meet that objective.
So do we have to, from my understanding, I thought we had a work session right after the dam failed. And there was two different ways that you can get paid. One was they're gonna come up with a number of whatever it is to
Yep.
make it back the way it was. We're gonna give you that money and you do whatever you have to. To me, it sounds like we're shifting gears and we're going to the other model where it says, this is how much money we think it's gonna cost to replace, but you guys can spend the money on this to do this. So are we, not that it matters, because I think we're gonna use all the money anyways, but, so are we justifying, or are we quantifying what we're gonna do to get the 23 million?
My impression-
Two-part question, and then are we gonna be fronting the money and they gonna reimburse us like a road project? Or how
We
can you
should get the
explain that?
money
Up front?
upfront, or
Okay.
at least a significant portion of
Okay.
it. With respect to your initial, yes, you're right. it is, they're coming up with a theoretical repair, here's the maximum amount of dollars we'll give you, and then you have to convert that and ask for it to go into an alternate project.
Okay,
And then the approval to take the dam out and do the slope stabilization.
and they'll still have say on that.
Correct.
And I'm okay
so
with that, I
What
just-
we're avoiding is them approving this and then having to go
Nope,
to ask
I
for the
get that.
alternate, and we're trying to condense those two together.
Okay, it's just a little bit different track than what I was on, under the understanding. I thought they were just gonna come up with a number and write us a check, and then we did what we wanted with it. But again, I don't care, because we're gonna spend it all on that anyways.
Right, they had to approve what we're gonna
Okay,
do with.
all right,
with those
I missed
dollars.
that part of it then.
And Madam Chair, just for that May 26th, just to point out in Ryan's memo, that's where they'll have like 3 options that BAR's working on. And that's going to be really the important part for the board to weigh in on that, because the goal is after that May 26th work session, hopefully a couple weeks after, that can all be submitted to FEMA. And I know there's some question from BAR on, is it the full 60% drawings? But I think we're waiting for some confirmation, but it sounds like more of a conceptual 60% plan.
Okay.
'Cause that is the hope, I think, for all of us, is that if we can get that in, that by like June 12th, we could truly expedite this process going forward to get to an actual project that we're starting.
We do have a deadline, a 4-year deadline from the event, so we do have to get this authorized by June of 2028, or we would have to request a year extension. So we do want to get the project let, and obviously, we'd love to get this done. We'd like,
I would say I want this done by June of 28.
I'd love
What
to
are you
be,
talking
I'd love to
about
be
plans approved?
working on it right now, but the FERC and everybody else is making that very challenging for us.
And I think we heard loud and clear from FEMA, they do not want to get to an extension in 28. That
Oh
was
my
their
goodness,
sense.
we
We
get
do
to an
not want to
extension in
get there,
28.
because
Neither do
then
we.
you don't know what happens.
This needs to be
We
done.
want it under contract and most of the funds expended, or
Yeah.
at least distributed
Yeah.
to the county.
And I don't know how far along in your plans you are, but I've said it before, I will say it again, I would like to see us use that recycled concrete out of the dam to incorporate it into our project if we can in some way, shape, or form. But I know that's a battle for you, but just letting you know, that's my thought.
Once we get the direction and consensus from the board on the design, which are those alternatives, I think BAR can go full speed on finalizing the plans.
I
Commissioner.
think you answered my question. My question was, after we have consensus at a work session, is there anything we have to do at a board meeting to meet that 1-month deadline? Okay.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
It'll be just on staff to make sure that we can get as much information to them as possible. But we will also be meeting with some of the landowners to show them the proposed alternates and hopefully have any feedback on those. But I kind of think I have a general sense of where those conversations will go.
No, this is exciting. I mean, this
Yeah.
is good news.
Yeah, it's long overdue to get some
Especially if
good
we get
news
the
like
check up
this.
front or a good chunk of it, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. So that concludes my report. Happy to answer any other questions that the board may have.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Nope, me either. All right, thank
Good
you
day.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a good day.
Mr. McDermott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have nothing to add to my report. If you or the other commissioners have any questions, please let me know.
All right, thank you very much.
Looks like you've been busy again, Pat.
Plenty going on.
Yeah, that's very true. And we'll move to administration, Josh?
All right, Madam Chair, the first item are the minutes for the April 21st meeting.
I'll move the minutes.
Second?
I have a motion and a second on the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, Madam Chair, then we have bills. We have 3 weeks of bills to approve.
So moved?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
All right, next we have the HR agenda, all informational items for this meeting today. We do have an employment of a new maintenance technician, employment of a transport officer, another correctional officer, also employment of an assistant county attorney. Then also 2 resignations of correctional officers that are coming up here, and then recruitment initiated for those 2 correctional officers. A resignation of a 911 telecommunicator with also following a recruitment for the 911 telecommunicator. And also resignation of our license center administrator, and then recruitment initiated for the license center administrator. Resignation of a part-time library clerk, and then recruitment initiated for that position. And then a resignation of a community corrections supervisor And then initiating recruitment for a temporary property and environmental resources specialist 2. And then that last one, as you see, is temporary. This was a position that somebody we recently left Blue Earth County, and really based on where we're at in the process for elections is why we're doing this as temporary. This was a position that was really combined taxation and elections, and so for this one, just going forward with a temporary to get somebody in place here to work on the elections for this year. Any questions that I could answer on any of those items?
No?
Okay. Next item we have is a memorandum for an appointment to County Board of Appeal and Equalization. Mr. Dan Robinson's term would expire this year and has expressed the desire for another term. So we're recommending a reappointment of Mr. Robinson for a 3-year term expiring in 2029.
I'll move approval.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Right, the next item we have is for a revised board meeting date. So this is for in September. The revision is that we'd be taking the September 22nd meeting and moving that up a week to September 15th due to some conflicts we have amongst the board on that meeting. So recommendation is to still do 2 meetings in September, one on the 8th of September and one on the 15th of September.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you.
Next 2 items are, the first is the acceptance of a resignation for Commissioner Mark Peepo. He had submitted his a letter of resignation to the board chair, and this is a resignation which would be effective on November 1st of 2026.
So we need a motion to
So
accept.
we need a motion to accept this, and then we'll do this for the special election as a separate motion after.
Okay.
So moved.
I'll let it die for lack of a second. Second.
And did you get a really bad look from me?
No, it's hard. but
Discussion.
yes.
This is hard, and Mark's been a joy to work with, and we still get to work with him till November.
Yes, for sure. So, good. Best wishes for him. He'll be missed, but
Yeah.
And Madam Chair, just with this, to just state, he's doing this at this timing to he's like, I don't want extra costs for a special
Right.
election, so
Right.
doing it in such a way is just, I think what we've seen Commissioner Peepo do is to looking out for the taxpayers of Blue Earth County, and so that's the timing of doing this now, knowing if he did this now, it could be part of that election in the November election.
Yeah, it was perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay.
All right, and the next item is the Blue Earth County resolution calling for a special election for the office of County Commissioner for District 3. So with this is that with the timing, we're able to do this election at the regular election in November. So this would be approving this election from the board to set that special election date.
so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right. That is set.
And the last item under the administration update is the financial status report for April 30th of 2026. I wouldn't say there is nothing really out of the ordinary. We're really tracking overall at this point with for our revenues at this time. As we'll know soon, we'll start seeing some of those property taxes flow in the next month. Also under expenditures, we're still also on track here. As you notice, we've definitely seen less in the building and equipment as we really wrapped up the vast majority of our bills for the public works building. A few trickling in here these probably next couple months, but those will slow considerably. Looking at the enterprise fund at the Ponderosa, we're on track. We're definitely a little lower than what we were at this time last year. This is one of the things, talking with our PER staff, is we were expecting a little bit less, as we know with one of the vendors coming in that they were going to be bringing in a little bit less this year. Again, a little bit of that double-edged sword is that there's less revenue, but on the same token, if we have less waste coming into the Ponderosa, we can also look at the extension of the life of
Right, less
of
filling
that
it up.
property. So And then looking at for expenditures, since looking at that, was big is the the machinery and equipment. We had a couple large purchases already this year, and we also have another one coming in the next probably week or two. So we'll see that number grow in the next month, probably by another couple $100,000 as that equipment is being purchased to do operations. Looking at the cash and investment balances. Currently, that total available funds sitting close to that 71 million. And looking at that against that 6-month operating need, we're really right on track with that at this point in time. And then looking really at our dedicated funds with our total county funds are at that 127 million. One thing on the dedicated funds I did want to point out for this meeting, there's 2 items that are actually been added to that. It's under the riparian protection and the aquatic invasive species fund. These have been dedicated funds, and these have just really been tracked on a spreadsheet through our finance. But working through the PER department and working with our finance department, really felt this is something that should also be listed on here instead of just having it on a spreadsheet. And so just wanted to point out those numbers where we're at this point in time. That would conclude my report. If there's any questions, let me know.
Any questions?
So, Madam Chair, let's just talk a little bit about those 2 now that
Right.
you've put them on the report where I can see them.
Okay.
And my question is about the fund balance. What do we use those for? I mean, and how do we get the revenue from them?
The revenue for those, these are coming in from state funds coming to us that actually have, very specific items that they can be used for. I think one of the things that we can talk about, and this is maybe even something that we could even talk a little bit at a work session to get into detail, because I would definitely like
Sure.
Mr. Stahlberger to talk about that. But riparian protection, that is something you see those numbers grow and very limited on what we can do with those and where we're at with compliance on that. Aquatic invasive species fund, that's also grown, but that's also a fund that we're
Much
going to
better.
see. We're going to see less funding with a change in the legislature, less funding for that in the future. So I'm not as worried about that item, but I think it's worth having some more conversation on the riparian protection in the future of what can we do for that in the future.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to commissioner reports. As always, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since our April 28th board meeting, participated in the celebration of Bob's retirement and career on April 30th at University of Minnesota Extension activities, as well as the True Transit Advisory Committee. May 7th, attended the Soil Water Conservation District meeting. Yesterday, May 11th, we had CD 64 and JD 33 landowner meetings, as we talked about earlier, as well as the Minnesota River One Watershed, One Plan. And this morning before board meeting, we had the JD 83 bid award meeting. That completes my report.
Thank you.
Hey, Madam Chair, I was also at the retirement party for Bob Meyer, which was very well attended. It was nice to see him get a great kickoff like that after all of his years of experience, and I'm sure he's watching this video right now, so hi, Bob. Then we also had an extension chair and vice chair training, I guess I would call it, or review, about 45 minutes to an hour. Conference call, sat in on that. Planning and zoning, we only had one item on the agenda, fairly straightforward, not having a public hearing on it, just something for the winery. Then I had my legislative meeting call through the SECB. Not really a whole lot going on there, watching a couple items, but again, not much getting done at the Capitol right now with the stuff we're looking for. And SWCD was, had a good turnout there. Everything seems to be going well. The tree sales were up and did a great job getting a whole bunch of trees out there. And then I had a JD 33 info meeting yesterday morning, which we'll see that at the end of the month. And then the bid award this morning for 83. And that's my report, Madam Chair.
All right. So the 28th was a work session before Bob's retirement.
Oh.
So the last board meeting was the 21st, right? So I attended the NACO regional meeting and the NACO webinar on the federal landscape. And then on the 24th, AMC had a webinar with their federal lobbyists. And on the 28th was the work session, Bob's retirement, which was an excellent turnout. May 1st, I had TDS Finance and Budget, and May 4th to the 8th, I was at the NACO WIR conference, and that concludes my report. So I need a motion to recess.
So moved.
Second?
All right, a motion and a second. Thank you. Meetings recessed.
Good job.